It's time for the final end boss. The absolute worst pizza in the history of pizza, in the hundreds and hundreds of years that pizza's been made. We finally have it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Casey's Pizza. Oh my God. Cannot tell you how excited I am to partake in this greasy, slimy, orange goo laden pizza. Comes on this amazingly high quality cardboard. Look what it leaves behind here. Look at this. Does that look appetizing to you? Does that look like the kind of thing that you should be putting in your stomach? I don't think so. I'm so grossed out by this. I made a huge energy protein drink to wash this down with. Maybe the good will cancel out the bad. I don't know. Hope you guys are doing well. March is almost over. March 24th, April's coming. May's around the corner. Summer in Vegas for many of you around the corner. What's up, Vice Chick? Good to see you. And we're going to end this season 1 of Poker and Pizza with some fun conversation today. I'm going to be talking about some life lessons that poker's taught me. We're going to flip the script. But first, we got to wolf down this horrific thing. Like, this is the kind of pizza I would have loved in junior high. I would have washed this down with a Red Bull and a Fun Dip and some nerds, and I'd have called it a day. I could rub this on my face and look like I had chicken pox in the morning. Chad Hunter says, "Hey Rob, you going to Vegas for the summer?" Man, that is the $1 million question. I'm going to talk about that for a couple minutes. Let me force down some more of this. For those of you who don't know, Casey's is a gas station, okay? In the Midwest, every small town in Illinois has a Casey's. Just the small towns. I had to drive to my nearest small town about 10 miles south of here to get this. Whatever you envision gas station pizza being, this is it. And for some reason, it has this mad cult following. In fact, one of their most popular pizzas is a taco pizza where they literally put lettuce, taco meat, tomatoes, and like Fritos. Because, you know, right, Fritos. Yeah, of course. On a pizza. They sell it for like $26. And people just eat it up. They eat it alive. I don't get it. Oh, gross. Randy Tegrity, I like the pineapple on pizza emote. That's nice. So, here's my dilemma for this summer. There is a chance that I leave here at the end of May and go out there until July 15th and go for the entire 6 weeks. I've done it multiple summers. It is a grind. It usually takes me a couple weeks to recover when I get back. It's not my favorite thing to do. Don't get me wrong. It's fun, but I don't go out there and like balance my time and go chill and go out to lots of dinner. Like I go grind. I grind. So by the time that 6 weeks is up and I get back home, I get crazy antisocial and I just want to curl up in a blanket and play video games for like a month. Last summer I went out. Didn't decide to go out until May 27th. Was out there 4 days later. First WSOP tournament I played, somebody died at the table next to me. That shot my anxiety through the roof. And then I spent the next 4.5 weeks mostly grinding online from Vegas and absolutely crushed. Had a monster online month, had multiple big scores. Still ventured out live a couple times, made a real deep run in a Golden Nugget tournament. And then just hit the burnout mark like the first week of July and left, I think, like July 3rd, July 4th. Opted not to play the main or stay any longer. And so now this year's coming up and I have no idea. There's some wrinkles. One of the wrinkles is that Global is now banned in Nevada. And that is a site where I can make very consistent and steady money. So not having access to Global and being out there kind of diminishes my ability to offset the variance of live poker and make sure that I'm generating revenue while I'm out there. Sure, I can grind ACR and I can grind Ignition and I can one table club WPT. But the softest tournaments right now are on Global, and that's the best place to get volume. So, I don't know, like that's a huge wrinkle. On top of that, I'm generating some revenue here that I can only generate by being in Illinois, and I'll lose that revenue by being in Vegas. So those two things make the desire to go out there diminished. On the flip side, I have a $1,300 flight credit with Delta. So if I book now, I could actually fly out there, fly back, take a break, fly back out there again, and then fly back for free. I have places to stay. So I don't have to, I have no expenses to go out there. And I feel like I'm playing the best poker of my career. So it feels kind of stupid not to. But I just don't know. What's up, Kim? What buy-ins do you play on Global? So I play everything between the kind of 11s and 55s. I'll mix in some of the 99s when I'm playing like some of the series and whatnot. And it's interesting. It's gotten even softer since Nevada's pulled out. I think we lost a decent amount of good regs when Nevada got out of there. So if you haven't played it in a hot minute, it's gotten even softer. I don't know where Gus went. But like for me, one of the things I like about that site specifically is there's a nice condensed schedule between like 6 p.m. Eastern and like 10 p.m. Eastern. And like if I just grind like the 11s to 33s on there, I don't have a lot of variance. I mean, I'll have some break-even sessions, and every once I'll have a really bad session, but most sessions I get multiple final tables because the field sizes are so small. And it's just a very relaxed, don't have to think a lot, don't have to put a lot of effort in type grind. And I kind of enjoy that, with having multiple irons in the fire and multiple projects I'm working on. It's kind of nice to be able to either put a full session in and just kind of not have to, play my top A game. I can kind of autopilot a lot of it. Or, if I'm working on something on the side, I can pull up 3 or 4 tables and put a smaller session in while I'm working on something and generate some revenue that way. So it's been a lot of fun to just kind of grind those. And what I like about it is that site, the late reg is shorter. An entire tournament, you can win a tournament in under 4 hours. So it takes a lot less focus and energy compared to like some of the other sites where these tournaments are going 6, 7, 8, 10 hours. You're not missing lunch today. This pizza is so gross. I'm finishing it because I said I would. Gas station pizza. Here's yours, Gus. Sorry, buddy. All right. We did it. So we'll see. Some of it's going to pretend. Some of it's going to depend on how my business revenue is doing come May. Some of it's going to depend on my sanity level come May. How much FOMO I have. Like, I don't know. Like, I can definitely justify skipping this year and really grinding on my businesses and building bankroll so I can be more aggressive next year and maybe take some more shots next year and approach it better. So I definitely don't have to go, but I've now 2 of the last 3 years I've waited until the last week of May to decide. And then on top of that, I also have the atrocious decision of driving or flying, which sounds ridiculous when you have a $1,300 flight credit, but I like having my rig. I like having my computer, my monitors, my editing station, my camera equipment. Like, I can't haul all of that on a plane, and I don't want to pack it all up and ship it and risk it getting lost or damaged and then having to wait a week for it to show up and all that stuff. So, like, I'll let you guys know. I'll definitely keep you guys in the loop. But I don't know. I'm literally probably going to decide the last week of May, and it's just going to be a gut feeling about what I think is the most EV thing. So we'll see how that goes. And that kind of segues into the topic I want to talk about today. Yeah, I know I could ship it all out and like get it there and unpack it and then ship it back, but like at that point, like I almost feel better just driving, having it with me, and then like having a car while I'm in Vegas. Like, I hate being in Vegas without a car and having to rely on people for rides or Ubers. It's so convenient to be able to go to the grocery store. You know, if you bust a tournament, you can just hop in your car and go to the next tournament location, being able to go to the gym when you want. Like, it's just so much more flexible. You're moving to Vegas? I vaguely remember seeing you post something about like packing your stuff. Holy crap. Good luck, man. That's a huge move. I think if I was single, I would totally move to Vegas, but I'd have to be single. Like, I would not want to like have to bring my family there. So what I want to talk about today, I want to flip the script and talk about things that poker has taught me about life. I find it funny when you know these conversations come up about you know, whether poker is a net positive or a net negative, because I think it's like a lot of things. I think that poker can be both, right? Take something like marijuana, right? Like, marijuana can be a positive or negative depending on how it's used and whether it's used appropriately or not. For example, don't eat a third of an edible. Just don't do it, especially if the edible is 10 grams. You may end up throwing up a lot, even if it was an accident. I'm not going to tell any more of that story. So there's a lot of things that, like, in and of themselves, a knife, right? A knife can be used as a weapon, but it can also be used to cut up your food and make really amazing dishes. So I never feel like poker in and of itself is some inherent evil that's destroying the world. And one of my arguments for it not being an inherent evil that destroys the world is that there's actually a lot of things for me that I've learned in poker that have translated to how I approach life, how I approach business, that have been very, very beneficial. And I thought, since this is kind of our season ending, our season finale here, if you will, that we could kind of talk about some of those lessons and some of the things I've learned. What did I come into? Perfect timing, Scott. Perfect timing. I eat 20 milligrams usually around 3 to 4 made you ill. No, like, God, you guys are going to make me tell the story. Long story short, I had some friends recommend that I get edibles to help with anxiety because I have functional anxiety. And the side effects of being like fully medicated on stuff for anxiety really outweigh the benefits of the rare times that I need it. And I went to a dispensary and was just going to buy some, you know, light edibles. And for whatever reason, the edibles I bought came in one gummy this big. It was 10 doses in one gummy this big. And I don't understand, like, what did they want you to do? Go home and just take like little nibbles of it? Like, perfectly cut it into 1/10 squares? Like, how the hell do you like take a gummy this big and like cut it into 10 doses? And so I just guesstimated and guesstimated horribly wrong. Um, and yeah, I paid the price. I tried to cut the end of it off, and what I didn't think about was when you cut a gummy that's like this thick, you're squeezing, the gummy is spreading out. So what I ended up doing is I didn't cut straight down. I actually cut this huge like concave curve out of it. It felt like I was cutting straight down because it was stretching it, but it was actually because it was stretching into the middle of the gummy. So what I thought was a small piece ended up being like closer to almost like a third of it. So I had like 3 doses. And long story short, I thought that I was riding like literally was sitting on the couch. It felt like the room was moving 120 miles an hour in like 4 different directions. And it was not pretty. So, yeah, lesson learned. I don't use gummies for anxiety. Spoiler alert, that did not last. So, there's one life lesson. I didn't learn that from poker, but I learned that from poker friends. There you go. So I want to talk about some things some ways that we can approach poker strategy in the decisions we make in life. And I think this is an important topic because I think one of the reasons a lot of people struggle with poker isn't the poker. It's all the life decisions around poker. This game is so much more than 3 betting ranges and check raising ranges. Like, the best players know how to get good sleep and how to be healthy and how to keep themselves emotionally balanced and life balanced and how to make time for poker and time for friends and time for family. There is a foundation that has to be there in order for us to play our absolute best poker. And I think a lot of people struggle on the life side of things. So I want to talk about 4 things today. I'm sure there's more. And if you have some great examples, drop them in the chat. I think it'd be kind of cool to hear some of the things that poker has taught you about life. But I have 4 that I really want to talk about that have kind of been pillars for me. And the first one is that we should think of life decisions in terms of EV. And this has been such an effective tool for us and our family that even though my wife plays no poker, has no interest in poker, supports me to the moon. I have more support from my wife than I could ever dream of on the poker front. In fact, we're talking about the whole Vegas thing. I could literally tell her on May 30th that I was going to Vegas for 6 weeks starting June 1st. And she'd be like, all right. Like, she's incredible. And so I think it's cool that like we'll have conversations as a married couple and we'll talk about decisions, and she'll now bring up EV. Doesn't play poker, doesn't care about poker, but we'll literally talk about EV when we talk about life decisions. And what all that means is like we're looking at decisions and we're trying not to make decisions based on costs. We're trying to make decisions based on value. And this is something I've worked with her a lot on, because there's been situations where she's like, man, there's this equipment I really want for the gym that would really help me like work out better, but it's like $300. And I'm like, okay, are you going to get $300 of value in it? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, is that $300 going to boost your ability to work out, your health, your energy levels, your results at the gym in a way that is worth more than $300? And she'd usually be like, yeah, but it's $300. I'm like, then we're going to figure out a way to do it. Because when you pass on life EV decisions over and over and over again, you're basically putting yourself in a cycle of not getting ahead. And one of the things that helped me get out of my life ruts and start to get ahead in life, so to speak, was this idea that I needed to stop passing on plus EV situations. And this is the same thing in poker, right? Like, think about a tournament player. The number one mistake that a lot of like entry level players that have spent time studying the game make is they get deep in tournaments and they start edge passing because they want to survive a little bit longer. They're enjoying the ride. They're having fun, the thrill, the excitement. They want to make the final table. They want to make the final 5. And so they start passing on edges again and again and again just to stay in the tournament a little bit longer, and they cost themselves to win the tournament. And I think in life, we kind of have a similar mentality sometimes, where the fear of approaching risks, the fear of approaching things that maybe come at a high cost, cause us to edge pass in life. And every time we edge pass in life, we lose that opportunity to start leveling up. So we approach everything from an EV perspective now. And that doesn't mean we spend beyond our means or we make foolish financial decisions. It just means that if, like, say, for example, there was something we felt we really needed to do and it cost $3,000 and we didn't have $3,000 in the budget to spend. Well, now I'm going to come up with a plan and prioritize and figure out what I can do to make an extra $3,000, to save an extra $3,000. I'm going to put that at the top of the priority list because I understand that the EV of making that decision is going to bring more value and benefit to my life. And it's not counterintuitive. You guys that play poker, you girls that play poker, you make these types of decisions in poker all the time, right? You make them 50, 100 times a session. So the ability to assess a decision and decide based on the data you have, the information you have, again, poker, game of incomplete information, life, game of incomplete information, but based on the information you have, you assess all the variables and you make your best guess, right? And this is what we should be doing in a life standpoint. You look at the information you have, you make a best guess, and you focus on what is going to give me the most EV moving forward. And there's a hybrid side of this too, which is there are decisions in life you can make from an EV perspective that puts you in a better place to play better poker. Your friends invite you out late on it to go hang out on a Saturday night, but you're putting a Sunday session in. Is hanging out with your friends Saturday night going to be plus EV? Is the time with them and the value of getting to spend time with them going to refresh you enough that you're going to be energized on a Sunday? Or is being out until 1 a.m. and then not sleeping as good and then getting up tired and then putting a session in, is that going to have a loss on your session? These are all things that like now are second nature to me. Maybe a little bit because of my anxiety. I have a tendency to like overanalyze a lot of these spots. Like you won't find a decision that comes up like this Vegas decision this summer. I'll be analyzing the EV of going and the EV of staying every day between now and then. And it's probably dumb. I probably should just wait till May and like to make the decision. But this is just how my brain works, where I'll be going back and forth. Like, what is my upside of going? What is my upside of staying? What is my downside of going? What is my downside of staying? And if I played this summer out 100 times, what's going to put me in a better spot moving forward? So hopefully that makes sense. I think measuring EV in life and chasing the things that will add more to our lives and doing that consistently is how you start to level up in life and how you start to get yourself in better and better positions and start to accomplish more and more with what you're trying to accomplish. That is hard for me with everything I have going on, as you know. So today I took a day off because last night work got in the way, and after I got home, tried to play a little bit. Could be my best. Yeah, days off are important. I'm actually, I've got a video coming out on YouTube sometime in the next couple of weeks where I'm going to talk exactly about that, about how time away from poker grows your poker game. It's a very counterintuitive idea, but I think it's really important. I think people that can find the willingness to take a break, super important. Also considering staying home this summer, PLO games keep getting juicier. And that's the thing. It's like everybody's going to tell you that, you know, I love when people say, well, you can't miss this. You can't miss that. Why? Like, don't let anybody tell you that you have to like go to a certain series. You have to play in a certain site. You have to play a certain tournament. This is your career. This is your poker career and your opportunity to do what you feel like you want to do in this space, and don't let anybody else talk you out of it. In fact, a lot of times the way to make money in this game is when everybody's going right, you go left, because we don't want to go where everybody is. One of my biggest frustrations about the WSOP last year, other than watching somebody pass away while I was being forced to play cards, was was like everybody was just on in my face about like, how can you miss this tournament? How can you miss that tournament? The WSOP is such great value, blah, 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 blah. And the 3 tournaments I played there, we all had terrible dealers that were really slow and were doing the best they could, but they weren't trained or prepared to play to deal at this level. I had tables full of Euros. Even though the buy-ins were small, the competition was way fiercer than it was at other venues. And the fields were massive, so the variance was insane. And I wasn't enjoying myself. And, you know, I pivoted, played a lot of online, mixed in a few of the best value live tournaments I thought I had, and I had a monster summer. And a lot of my friends that played the can't miss tournaments walked home with a lot less money in their pockets. So yeah, like anytime you see an opportunity to generate revenue that you feel like is best for you, don't be pressured into doing what everybody else is doing. Because most times everybody else is just following the crowd. It's like that old herd mentality where all the cows are jumping off the cliff and they're only jumping off the cliff because the cow in front of them jumped and nobody understands why they're doing it. And it was like one stupid cow that led everybody in the wrong direction. There's a lot of group speak in poker, and there's a lot of people that are chasing people and nobody the hell knows what value is. Nobody does. Everybody's going to tell you that this is value. They don't freaking know. Because if they really knew what value was, they'd probably be in a lot better spot. They wouldn't be playing, 80% backed and 50K in makeup. Yeah, listen to those guys about what the best value tournaments are. They freaking know. In fact, one of the things that was great about last year and being online was because so many people were playing live, online was softer than I had seen in a long time. That 6 weeks of the series is a phenomenal time to grind online. And those of you that can't go, like I know there's people that are like, I wish I could go to the WSOP this year. I have so much FOMO. I can't go. I can't take time off work. Can't be with my family. Like, look at the upside. Get online and take advantage of the fact that a lot of these people who grind every day of the week online normally are playing these miserable tournaments, and now these tournaments are way softer. You have an opportunity to generate some nice revenue and results that you couldn't necessarily get the other 11 months out of the year. Yeah, those are lemmings. I agree. So EV is one thing that I've learned that I've applied. Another thing that I've learned from poker that I apply to life is that aggression just wins. You've heard me talk on this pod about how blind aggression, right? Like there's players out there who they don't necessarily know their ranges. They don't necessarily have good poker mechanics. They're not very studied, but just because they're recklessly aggressive and there's just enough fold equity out there, they can squeeze out enough, chip EV through the course of a tournament to get some results. And it's kind of baffling because you look at like their mechanics and you're like, wow, this is not a good player. And yet you see them, winning tournaments and getting cashes and building up a Hendon mob. And it's just because it's an era where there's enough fold equity to aggression that it's not optimal, but being recklessly aggressive can kind of get you over the hump. And I think that the lesson and takeaway there from life is like, we win in life by taking risks. The best upside comes from taking risks. The best opportunities come from taking risks. There just really isn't a lot of opportunities out there that come with risk-free, right? Like, just think about like like Chad's taking a job in Henderson. There's risk with that, right? But there's also upside and reward for that. And so he's taking the risk. And I have this fun relationship with risk because, in my 20s, I was like I'll take all the risks in the world. And then I got slapped in the face a bunch of times, made a bunch of stupid decisions, had to pay a lot of consequences, and then got very risk adverse and then couldn't get anywhere. And then kind of like went back into the risk circle and then made stupid decisions. It was like a back and forth until I found equilibrium. And, again, to parallel it to poker, right? While blind aggression works, we would never coach blind aggression. Like we would never coach like, hey, just go out and 3-bet with any 2 cards anytime you think your opponent might have a weaker hand and don't worry about like ranges or anything else, because we don't deal in absolutes. Like, yeah, you can 3-bet an opponent you think is weak as an exploit, But sometimes, some percentage of the time they're going to call. And when they do call, we want a hand that we can at least do something with post flop. So, you know, do 7 offsuits, really not something we want to turn into a bluff as an exploit just because we think our opponent wiggled his nose and that's a sign that they're weak. And life's the same way. Like, I'm not advocating for like every risk that comes, you should just blindly and foolishly jump into it and just, you know, hopes and prayers that it works out. You want to take calculated risks. You want to take smart risks. You want to take educated risks. You know, going back to point one, you want to look at the EV of a risk and be confident that that EV exists in a way that's positive for you. But the way that we, again, advance in life and get to experience some of the best things life has to offer is by understanding that a calculated risk is 2 opportunities. Okay. Every calculated risk is 2 opportunities. Opportunity 1 is that it works out and something amazing happens. And opportunity 2 is that it doesn't work out and we learn an amazing lesson that equips us for the next risk that comes along and has us better prepared for future opportunities that are going to arise. And when you look at things that way, there really isn't a downside to those types of risks. Please do not use this to quit your full-time job with benefits and go into full-time poker with a 5K bankroll when you have no results to show for it. That's not what I'm advocating for. That's not a calculated risk. There's no EV in that, right? But for me, I think that as I've gotten older and I've gotten more experience with this, I know the situations where the risk comes and I need to take it. And it's usually in the situations where I'm blowing the downside out of proportion and I'm largely being scared of things that I don't really need to be scared of. You know, if a risk is something that's going to legitimately risk your life or it's going to legitimately risk your finances to the point where it's going to impact others, yeah, you got to kind of really like think about that hard. I love what Gary Vee says about this. He basically says a risk only becomes not worth taking when it affects the people around you, like that you care about. If it doesn't affect the people around you that you care about, then take every risk that faces you. And I think that's kind of a good delineation, right? So again, you know, I know a lot of people dream of going full-time in poker. You got to think about the impacts on your family and how that's going to play out before you make a decision like that. So again, I don't want anybody to read into my words, but I've had a lot of situations in my life where I had to take leaps of faith and I had to take risks. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you they all worked out, but I am going to sit here and tell you that pretty much every single one of them has either worked out in an amazing way I never dreamed of, or again, has been incredibly valuable learning experiences that have shaped and formed a lot of who I am today. In fact, usually when people come to me and not that this happens a lot or anything, but I'll have people come and they'll be like, wow, like you're really knowledgeable on this topic. Like, how did you get so smart at this? And I'm like, can I tell you about my 20s and a good chunk of my 30s? Can I tell you about some of the most stupid things? I mean, go back to when I was 17 and I tried to drop off flowers at some girl's house to impress her in the middle of a blizzard and got my car stuck in the country. And then I had to call my dad and have him come pick me up at like 1 a.m. That's not even the tip of the iceberg of stupid things I've done along the way, right? You learn from those things. And so I hate seeing people who never get to chase their dreams because they're always trying to edge pass and save for a better opportunity. Life's short. It's your life and nobody else's. It's your gift and nobody else's. And, you know, you owe it to yourself to at least some point along the way, take a few shots, right? Take a few shots, have a few opportunities, do some things that make you a little uncomfortable. And see where those things take you. So I think getting comfortable with risk is really, really important. It's a really, really important skill. And again, it's something that if you've played poker, you've done, right? We've all taken shots. We didn't win all the tournaments that we took shots in, right? But, we've had times where we've taken shots and it's worked out, and that's an amazing feeling. Taking a shot and playing the main and making day 4 was an incredible feeling. And I was so glad that I did it. But there were times in that tournament where I, got short stacked and I was like, oh God, this was a mistake. And it wasn't. It wasn't. Which brings me to my third point. And this one should be pretty obvious. Don't be results oriented, right? This is a very common one in poker and in life. You get all in a certain spot, you were unsure, you ended up being wrong, and so therefore it was the wrong decision. Maybe it was the wrong decision, maybe it wasn't. This is why the pattern of like EV and aggression working together is so important, because if you know the EV of a spot, then the results never matter. They don't, right? If you're solid and convinced that a certain spot is a plus EV spot and you don't get the results you want, that's just variance. I'm going to get another drink of my wash down the disgusting greasy pizza smoothie. That's just variance. Now, there's going to be times where we might mistake what the EV is, and we might get new information through the results of a hand and go, maybe the EV in this spot wasn't what I thought it was, right? Maybe we think our opponent's capped in a certain spot, and then we find that they are top of range. And it's like, well, if I'd known they had top of range here, I wouldn't have pop bet the river, right? There's going to be situations like that where the EV changes. And this is where taking risks and then having them not work out and then learning from those mistakes grows us, because we might find out, we might hone our EV calculator a little bit more and go, okay, well, I took on this business deal. I thought it was a good business deal. It ended up not being a business deal because I didn't have a good business deal because I didn't have all the information. And now I know more information that I need before I make my next business deal. And so now the next time a business deal comes up, I'm going to ask a few more questions because now I've learned from this, right? So yes, results can change maybe what the original EV is, but there's going to be times where we're just going to take shots and it's going to be the right decision. It's going to be the right reasoning. It's going to be the right situation, the right circumstances, and you're going to get the wrong result. And we can't walk away from that situation and change our thought process and go, well, this was the wrong decision. If everything lined up and you got the wrong result, you just got the wrong result. There's no absolutes in poker, right? There's so many things we get into with good intentions: marriage, having kids, taking new jobs, making career changes, planning vacations, right? Budgeting, all of these things. And they all start out with the best of intentions. But in any situation we make, there's a multitude of results. There's a bell curve that can happen. And sometimes multiple people come in, they make a decision for the right reasons, the right intentions, and things just don't work out. The bell curve ends up on the bad side of things. Doesn't always mean that, the people involved were bad. It doesn't mean that the decision was bad. It just means the results didn't pan out the way that we were hoping and anticipating. So being a person who can take a step back, go, okay, this life thing I did, it didn't work out. Let's go back and reevaluate whether we really think this was a bad decision or not. And again, if you go back through and you're like, the information doesn't change the EV of the spot, then we need to be comfortable making that decision the next time we get in it. And that's a hard thing, right? Say you have a close friendship and that friendship doesn't work out and your friend betrays you. It's harder to have another close friendship. If you've been in a romantic relationship and had your heart broken, it's harder to get back into a romantic relationship. If you worked, asked for promotion at work and your boss screamed at you and told you were a terrible person, and now you're at a new job, you feel uncomfortable asking for a promotion. These are all human nature things, right? We have this subconscious that wants to protect us from pain and suffering and hurt and all of those things. And it has good intentions. So it's always trying to steer us into this path that is going to prevent us from getting hurt. And this is one of the reasons I'm so big on meditation and mindset, because that track of your subconscious, while it means well, can steer you into a lot of negative EV spots. Because all it's focused on is the results. The best way to think about your subconscious is you if it was always results oriented. This is great. I just thought of this on the spot. Your subconscious is literally the results-oriented version of you. And it's literally sitting there saying, you know what? The last time you did this, the last time you went all in with aces, you got your aces cracked. The last time you 3-bet jacks, there was an ace on the flop. Da-da-da-da. That's all your subconscious is doing. It's being results-oriented with good intentions. But that can steer us into so many bad EV decisions because all we're looking at is an outlier result from one situation where it was a positive EV spot and we ended up on the bad side of variance. And now it's trying to force us into a negative EV decision because of that one result. And if we lean into that, now we start repetitively making negative EV decisions and we feel better in the moment because we're avoiding risk. We feel better in the moment because we're like, well, not going to get screwed by this romantic relationship because I'm done with that, right? And we feel better in the moment that we're avoiding that potential downside. But every time that situation comes, we're leaking EV a little bit along the way. And then over time, that EV adds up. And then all of a sudden, 5-10 years down the road, we feel like we're so far behind in life. We're behind in finances. We're behind in relationships. Why am I not keeping up? Why does everybody seem like they're getting ahead and I can't get a break? Well, here's why you can't get a break. Because you're missing, people don't struggle in life usually. Obviously, there's outliers, but most people don't struggle in life because of one critical moment in their life that's changed everything, right? The average person doesn't have that. The average person that struggles in life is because they've missed hundreds and hundreds of small plus EV decisions all along the way. And that comes from that subconscious trying to get them to avoid risk, trying to get them to avoid aggression, trying to get them to avoid positive EV spots out of the fear of failure, rejection, and all the other things that happen. So one of the reasons I'm big on mindset and I'm big on meditation is it's just a simple, scientifically backed way to reprogram that subconscious to understand that we don't need to be results oriented. That's all it is. And listen, the first time I got into meditation, I wanted nothing to do with it. Somebody hired me a mindset coach, and I was like, oh man, this is some weird, holistic, like vegan crap. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. Like I had very negative biases, right? That weren't even based on anything. That I just thought it was like this, thing that like hippies do or something. And I was challenged to just try it for a week with an open mind. And I don't even know that I tried it with an open mind, but it effing worked. Like at the end of that week, everything that I had done in those meditation sessions, my entire thought process was shifting. So I did a week of meditation on like healthy eating and being more healthy and exercising. And I was waking up with motivation to go to the gym. I was having no desire to eat greasy food. Like it was working on that level. And like with poker, like having the peace of mind about like bad beats and like I was literally seeing it change me, and it blew my mind. And I felt humbled because I was like, I thought I knew what this all was, and I was completely wrong. So if you've ever been adverse to the idea of meditation, I cannot recommend it enough as a way to shift this entire life cycle. Because now we can start to have a better kind of, like we talk about A game and C game in poker, right? Like your A game is your absolute best, but you can't do that 24/7. So you have this C game, which is kind of like your autopilot game that you're trying to level up. So the times where you can't give max focus, you're still making better decisions. Life's the same way. Obviously, if we had all the information and all the facts and we had a coherent mind and we had infinite time to think, we would always make the best decisions. But we end up in a lot of situations in life where we have very little time to react and we have to make an impulse decision. And that's our life C game. And the more we program that subconscious to not be results oriented, to understand EV instead of past results, the better that C game gets and the better our instincts get and the better decisions we make more consistently. This is the whole basis of behavioral economics. Our brains are hardwired to make really bad financial decisions, and applies to your discourse. Fight or flight was great for the caveman days when we had to run from woolly mammoths, but really bad in modern society. Yeah, I agree, Kathmandu. I think that's spot on. I wish my subconscious was wimpy, gently. Yeah, and it can be, right? Especially if you've dealt with a lot of pain or suffering along the years. Like for me, it was really strong because I got bullied a lot in junior high and high school. And I grew up in a neighborhood where I had to be careful playing in my backyard. My next door neighbor got jumped by a bunch of gang members in his backyard, beat the living daylights out of him. So I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of fight or flight. I had a lot of pain and suffering and emotional heartache. People trying to give me swirlies and all that stuff. And I was stronger for it. I came out of it very strong. I think it's one of the reasons why I've got like a lot of determination. I don't back down easily, but the downside of it was like I had a really strong subconscious too, where like there was, I mean, and I think this is a lot of the reasons I have anxiety, other than the genetic reasons, which don't help. Because like the way I survived those things was by anticipating everything that could potentially go wrong in a given situation and figuring out in my head how I could overcome that. And in doing that, like that's how I handled difficult situations. I felt like if I always had a potential solution in place for anything that could go wrong, then I'd have a peace about the situation. Problem is that's like jet fuel for anxiety. Like that's exactly what anxiety wants, is for you to overthink and overanalyze every microscopic thing that could potentially go wrong in a given situation. And so it really fueled that for me. For me, whether I'm right or wrong, I never second guess my decisions I've made. If I'm wrong, I look at how things went wrong and try to do better for the next time. Yeah. Yeah, it's that learning process and adapting. So we talked about the value of EV and how that works in life as well as poker. We talked about how aggression wins. We talked about not being results oriented. And then the fourth lesson that goes with all this, volume is king, right? The way that you beat variance in poker is to get a lot of volume in. And the way you beat variance in life is to get a lot of volume in. And that's hard. Like, I don't want to belittle this. Volume in life is hard sometimes. It's hard to get your heart broken multiple times. It's hard to chase your dreams and have them not come to fruition multiple times. It's hard to climb halfway up the mountain, fall down, and have to climb up halfway up the mountain all over again. But there's just not many things in life that are worth fighting for that you accomplish on the first try. There just isn't. How many people in here learned how to ride a bike and never fell off a bike? There might be one. I'm sure somebody's going to come in chat and be like, oh, I never fell off a bike. I was born on a bike. I came out of my mother's womb on a bike. But for the most part, we all did the same damn thing. We skinned a knee or two, or we skinned an elbow. You know, we made several trips down the road after getting pushed by one of our parents and eventually wobbled over and then had to get back up and shake the dust off and try again. And eventually we got to the point where, you know, we were riding our bikes without even holding the handlebars, right? But we didn't start out that way. This is just again, another analogy for how things go. Like, you're just not going to master things on the first try. You just aren't. Like, this whole like natural talent thing, it doesn't really exist. Society's evolving so much now anyways, that like, quote, best practice is constantly changing. It's fun doing content around like, if I started my career today, what would I do? Or, you know, if I had to teach somebody poker and they'd never touched a deck of cards, how would I teach them? Because I think the answer to that question changes like every 6 months. But we have to understand that whatever we want to go after, we have to commit to rounds and rounds and rounds of going for it. Again, like when people come to me and say, my goal is to win a WSOP bracelet. Well, then your goal is to play 500 WSOP bracelet events, right? Because the idea that you're going to go play 3 WSOP bracelet events and win one, man, okay, good luck. I mean, sure, if you can only play 3 events and that's your dream, you got to give it the best shot you can. But that's not a goal, that's a dream, right? And it's not a very realistic goal, even if you were the best player in the world. After all, you know, Phil Hellmuth is the self-proclaimed best player in the world, and he hasn't even made day 5 since like 2019. I thought it was funny that he was complaining about the schedule and he's like, well, I can't win the WSOP because the schedule is too stringent. Bro, you ain't even made the money in like 6 years. Like maybe you should focus on min cashing and not walking in the last second on day 2 with an entourage dressed like a Halloween party, instead of like complaining about the structure of the tournament. Neither here nor there. Like it's a volume game, and life is a volume game. Like, yeah, it's great if people have love at first sight and they marry the first person they dated. And those stories do happen. But that's not the typical person, right? And part of the reason it's not typical person is because who you are in your 20s is not the same as who you are in your 30s, and it's not the same as who you are in your 40s. So a lot of times somebody falls in love in their 20s, by the time they're 40, they're a completely different person. Their spouse is a completely different person. So how well you really get to know each other and how malleable you are to the change in another person really dictates how well that works over the years. Back in the day, you know, my grandmother got married at 15. And that's kind of crazy to hear, right? Like, how could somebody get married at 15? Well, back in the day when she got married at 15, kids were getting jobs at like 11. Like they were working full-time jobs at like 11 and 12. So the maturity level was a lot higher, right? Things have changed. So I say all that to say this, like whatever you're going after, if you're going to commit to something, like let's say you have a lofty goal, it could be a career goal, could be a poker goal, could be a relationship goal, could be a health goal, right? You need to, out of the gate, understand, just like you do in poker, think of it like tournaments, right? If I'm going to accomplish this goal, I'm going to fail multiple times along the way. Like just come to peace with that right out of the gate and see it as a volume game. Because if you do that, you understand that, and you have the, you know, determination to move forward from each mistake and move forward from each failure and continue working forward. If you see it as a volume game, it's going to be hard to stop you. It's going to be hard for you to not reach your goals because you're just going to keep coming, right? There's nothing more annoying. They were talking about on the pod last week. There's nothing more annoying than the person that fires like 12 bullets in a tournament. It's freaking annoying because like you bust them, they come back. You bust them, they come back. And yeah, you like getting the additional chips, but it's exhausting, right? Especially if they're a decent player. You don't really want them coming back. It's that kind of tenacity that helps people get to those goals and those dreams. And I think too many people, it's just human nature. They get excited about something. They, like January 1st comes. Well, I'm going to start a new health kick. I'm going to drink a smoothie every morning for breakfast, and it's going to help me get more healthy. And then they drink a smoothie on Monday. They drink a smoothie on Tuesday. They drink a smoothie on Wednesday. They forget on Thursday. And they're like, ah, crap, I screwed up. And then they never drink another smoothie again. Why? Pick up a smoothie on Friday. You missed a day. Who gives a fuck? Move on. Like, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. Don't tell me that drinking a smoothie, if we decide that, I'm being hypothetical here, if we decide that drinking smoothies are healthy, don't tell me that drinking a smoothie 355 days and screwing up 10 has no value and is no better than drinking a smoothie 0 days, right? Or going to the gym. Like, well, I missed a couple days. Okay, who cares? You know what? If you go to the gym 200 times this year, you're going to be a hell of a lot better shape than if you go 0. Even though you completely and this is the funny thing. It's a mindset thing, right? If I told all of you that you were going to for sure get to the gym 200 times in 2026, you'd all feel pretty good about your health. Every one of you'd be like, that's pretty cool. Like I'd feel pretty good about that. But when people set a goal to go to the gym every day for a year, the idea of skipping 165 days sounds worse than not going at all. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I don't get that dynamic, but it literally exists, and you see it in people's thought processes all the time. And so we equate those two things, and then we use it as a justification to just not do it at all. When in reality, failing 165 times in a year at going to the gym still puts you in an amazing spot in terms of your fitness and health. And this equates to so much in poker and life, right? Man, some of you, God bless you, you want to study 10 hours a week of poker. Why the hell are you studying 10 hours a week of poker? Because I can guarantee you, you're retaining like 10% of what you're learning. And then of the 10% you're retaining, you're not getting the opportunity to practice and work on that skill and hone it in and get comfortable with it, because by the time you're getting ready to practice it, you're already jumping to 5 more skills in the other 9 hours that you studied. I have arguments with my friends all the time about this. Well, I got to go study more. No, you fucking don't. Okay? Like, stop. Slow down. Give yourself time to learn. This is a volume game. You don't have to get it all done at once. Right? We used to coach basketball. We would always tell the kids if they're down 15 points, there's no 15-point shot in basketball. You're not going to go down the court and tie the game. What you have to do is just play a little bit better than the opponent for the rest of the game. If you can be one basket better every 4 minutes for the rest of the game, you'll win the game. That's all. It's volume game. It's just about making better decisions over the long run, despite the fact there's going to be ups and downs and successes and failures. So the lessons I've learned, again, if you have any, drop them in chat, but think of decision in terms of EV. Great way to approach life. Don't be afraid of the cost if there's really going to be benefit for you. Aggression wins. Take risks. Take chances. Make mistakes. When you take risks and works out, it's going to be amazing. When you take risks and it doesn't work out, you're going to learn valuable lessons, which is going to make you better at risk taking in the future. And being better at risk taking in the future is going to help you be a more successful person. Don't be results oriented. If the EV was there, the EV was there. How the result came out should not affect your future decision making. Should not change the way you think about your decisions and your thought process. And volume is king. Get out there, make mistakes, go again and again. Know you're going to fail, but understand that so many of the things we succeed in life are brute force hacked, which just means we keep coming and we keep coming and we keep coming until we eventually break through. Never think that it's just one, I'm going to break through on the first time and everything's going to be perfect. You apply those 4 poker skills to life, you're going to have a pretty badass life. And then if you can actually go back and apply those skills to poker a little bit more consistently, you probably have a pretty good poker career as well. I have a Hellmuth theory. Whoever or whatever deal he had ended and they don't think they're getting the benefit from it anymore. So they told him he's just a normal player now. Listen, Phil Hellmuth, the poker player, and Phil Hellmuth, the business person, 2 very different people. Okay. I think Phil Hellmuth has done a phenomenal job, obviously, at using his poker prowess for business, for profit away from the tables. He's made millions and millions and millions of dollars off of his poker image. So he's made it work. I wouldn't go about it the way he went about it. I would hate myself if I acted the way he did, but he's turned his persona into, 8 figures, comfortable 8 figures. He's done well with that. Phil Hellmuth, the poker player, is a has-been. God bless him. He's got some talent and, he's got a lot of experience on the side. But if I had to stake any of you in chat, I'm not staking any of you in chat, so don't get excited and don't start begging. But if I had to choose between dumping money into one of you in the main event and dumping money into him in the main event, I would choose you every goddamn time. Every single time. I don't think he's running out of money. Now, he might not want to spend his own money because he might know he's dead money while he's out there screaming from the rooftops that he is, the greatest player in the world. But he's not hurting for money. All right. I have to wrap this up because I've got to hop into another meeting. But this has been fun. This is a nice little 10, 11 episode thing. We're going to come back and do some more of this in the future. I knew I was going to do a kind of short run of these to see how it went, to get a feel for it, a flavor for it. And then things were going to get crazy heading into the summer, but we'll look at doing something along the lines of this in the fall. Maybe we'll do it in the evening. Maybe we'll do it in the afternoon. Maybe we'll do it on the weekend. We'll kind of see, but appreciate everybody hanging out. If this is your first time or second time, go back and check out the other episodes. There's a lot of really good poker strategy over there. My new YouTube video just dropped, so if you have nothing better to do, head over to my YouTube channel and check out the video, watch it to the end, drop a like and a comment. That always helps the algorithm, helps us out. But Appreciate y'all. Hope you guys are doing well, and we will see you guys very soon.